And the second candidate for running in the primary for the fighting 58th, Amanda Kirchgessner.
Thanks, Fred. Just want to thank the TCP for putting this on tonight. My name is Amanda, and I would love to serve as your New York State Senator. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, you don't look like a politician, and thank you. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a public servant. That's something that's sorely missing in Albany, in Washington, and even in a lot of seats locally. We need more people to step up. I'm not a wealthy person. I made less than $30,000 last year. I'm very similar to a lot of people in this district. Here in the 58th, we're too poor to leave, but we're too poor to stay. We're kind of stuck here in the middle. So this was one thing I saw watching the 23rd district race. We had 11 candidates at one point, watching them whittle down, and nobody was stepping into this 58th race. So in February, somebody said, you should run. And I was like, that's an interesting idea, because enough people at the diner where I worked had said, you should run for an elected office. You're the kind of person we would like to see as in a position to help us, because we need help. We can't feed our kids. We have to decide between buying groceries or paying rent. And that's a position that a lot of people in this district face on a weekly basis. There are two things I really see as the major issues facing New York State. Climate change, global warming, these things are real. And Gilded Age wealth inequity. New York State has the highest wealth inequity in all of the country. These are things that absolutely need to be addressed. Single-payer healthcare would absolutely begin to address this issue. Fully funding our public schools would absolutely begin to address this issue. Guaranteeing college education would absolutely begin to address this issue. And on the flip side, employing people with a state's job guarantee to address climate change is absolutely something we have to do and we have to get behind. And as your representative in Albany, these are things that I will stand up for and die fighting for, because climate change is going to kill me if we don't. Climate change is real, and it is happening. And in order to meet aggressive climate goals, we have to dig in now, and we have to dig in deep, and we have to reach out to our neighbors across all aisles. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about us and our children and our future. That's why I'm running for New York State Senate. Of course, once I'm elected, I will support the New York Health Act. I will support the codification of Roe versus Wade into New York State law with the Reproductive Health Act. I will support GENDA. I will support the repeal of the Erstat law, which will allow for rent control in New York City to be put back in the hands of the people of New York City. We need it up here. We need it here in Ithaca. We need it in Corning. We need it in Elmira. People need these programs. And it's one of the only ways we're going to begin to address the slew of issues that are facing us here. I knock on doors on a near daily basis, and most people are very surprised to see somebody like me at their door asking them, what do you care about? What do you need? And most of them just want to see a little more money invested in their communities, in their neighborhoods. And it's the job of the state to make sure our tax dollars that we pay to Albany come back to our communities. This absolutely needs to happen. This is absolutely what I'm going to fight for. And like Derek, I'm coming up a little bit short on my time. I could go on, but I'd rather hear your questions. So please feel free to ask me anything. I'm an open book, and we need more transparent elected officials. Thank you.
Would you favor a more steeply graduated state income tax? By graduated, I mean higher taxes on those who have the most money, and assuming a Democratic majority, the end of the IDC, the political conditions that would allow it, what could the state do with it?
That's a great question, and seems like an easy one. The answer is yes. And wealthy people have a lot more, and they have a lot more than they used to when I was born. And their wealth is growing, and the wealth of the lowest half is shrinking rapidly on a near daily basis. I see any number of opportunities to put those funds to use in New York State. I do think a state's jobs guarantee is one thing we can do to help people get off of social services and re-enter the workforce, doing the rapid infrastructure growth and repair that we need to do to switch to a green economy. These are paramount right now. People want to work. Everybody whose door I've knocked on would love a $20 an hour job. They're thrilled at the idea of it. So that's one thing I think we could really put our funds behind, is helping construct infrastructure that will help sustain us and future generations into the future. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to ask the same question I asked before, which is what your plan is to beat your opponent and how fundraising figures into that.
Thanks for that question, Liz. Fundraising is a key component of any race for office, and the public financing of elections is something I'll absolutely advocate for in the future. We're building a grassroots campaign. I'm proud to say my donation average after our first filing was $92 per person. And I don't want lots of money from a few people. I want small donation from a lot of people, because that's buy-in, and that's people who believe in me. We're working to amplify our message and do outreach for small dollar donations. Leslie Danks Burke, who ran this race previously, raised $750,000. She, in every sense, was the perfect candidate. It was an interesting year, 2016. I don't have to go into details. I think most of you know that. But the point is, if Leslie and her $750,000 couldn't win this race, we have to reimagine a different approach. And I think the right candidate with the right platform can build enough of a groundswell of support that we can raise enough money in order to do it. And like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez showed in New York City, you just need enough money to get your message out there. You don't need millions of dollars. You just need enough to get your message out there. Thank you.
Of course, Ms. Cortez was in a different district that wasn't predominantly Republican. But that point, you raised an interesting issue just here tonight that I haven't heard issue raised yet, and that is extending rent controls from New York City upstate. Okay. Do you think that's viable? Do you think that the state assembly and Senate will approve it, number one? And number two, do you think that just by raising that issue, the Ithaca landlord lobby will throw so much money at Mr. O'Mara that it will bury you?
It's Bob, right? Thanks, Bob. The real estate lobby is already Tom O'Mara's largest donor. And I actually already have some notoriety among the largest developers here. And I think that's a good thing, because they're not who I'm running to represent. I'm running to represent the people who are paying half of their monthly income to landlords who are exploiting their they're exploiting their tenants. If that message doesn't resonate with enough of this district, I guess I'm doing it wrong. But I'm going to keep plugging on and carrying on with this message that, hey, there's more of us than there is of you, and we vote. Our votes all count the same. Thank you.
Notice my message here on the shirt.
Okay, it's as much as a comment as a question. The primary's late, and I'm just hoping that we can pull together, no matter who wins, to beat Tom O'Mara. And that's the prize. So I wanted your comments on that, whether you'll be able to do that if you don't win, or, if you do, or what your thoughts are on that, about pulling together with such a short time between the primary and the election.
So by pull together, do you mean endorse my opponent if he were to win the primary? Or absolutely. And that's because our current elected officials benefit from late primaries. And they're in session till the end of June. The whole system is set up in such a way. New York State is the only state that has 2 primaries. Sure. I think the candidates from the 23rd race are an excellent example of how we can come together to beat Tom O'Mara. When I got into this race, nobody else was in it. And I thought it was a disservice to all the people I told I would run and carry their interest to Albany to step out of it once Michael entered it. I'm of the belief that this is only going to benefit the blue wave. When people see me running, they see somebody like them. Like, hey, that's somebody who goes to a food pantry. That's somebody who's debated between paying their electric bill or paying for groceries. I think my message will resonate in the sense that a lot of people are experiencing a deep lack in resources. And I think that that's the message that needs to be lifted up in this race is, hey, why are we so poor?
Thank you, Amanda. Wonderful job. And thank you also, Michael. I think the Fighting 58th has got a real strong ticket.